Production funding for Flying Squirrels and Cider is made possible in part by the all-new 2015 GMC Yukon, offering professional-grade design and functionality. The all-new 2015 GMC Yukon, now available at Richmond area GMC dealers. Dan Doherty at Colonial First Mortgage, assisting customers with home purchasing and mortgage refinancing. Online at colonial1mtg.com and by phone at 804-218-4444. And James Limousine, driven to serve Richmond for 22 years. JamesLimousine.com, 804-237-1540. Today, on the Season 3 premiere of Flying Squirrels and Cider, we introduce you to the most heralded group of pitchers that have ever been called Flying Squirrels. The guys break down the opening day roster, and we introduce you to the team in record time. Plus, Jon Laaser sits down with Flying Squirrels pitching coach Ross Grimsley. It's all ahead on the Season 3 premiere of Flying Squirrels Baseball.
Another big win for Richmond's hometown nine. So for my broadcast partner, Jay Burnham, and the entire Flying Squirrels baseball family, Jon Laaser is saying one more time, thanks for joining us. And so long from the Boulevard.
Jeez, Lays, brevity was never your strong suit.
That's poetry.
It might have been, but James Limousine is waiting.
The owner of James Limousine, Randy Allen, personally chauffeuring us over. Hey, you didn't have to do that, man.
Only the best for you guys, especially in your third season. How about that guy, McElroy?
No, I'm not doing, no more TV. I just want to do radio. No more TV. Not another year of the squirrel.
Hello everybody, and welcome to the third season of Flying Squirrels Insider and an introduction to the celebratory fifth season of Flying Squirrels Baseball. I'm your host, Jon Laaser, extremely excited to be back with you and also have our entire team of analysts back for Season 3. Jay Burnham and Wes McElroy rejoin me in just a few minutes from the newly minted Colonial First Mortgage baseball desk, and we give you an in-depth preview of what to look for on the field from the Squirrels this year. But today we're also going to take you through Media Day with the newest group of Squirrels and bring you my sit-down conversation with fifth-year Flying Squirrels pitching coach Ross Grimsley. But first and foremost, we wanted to let the new Squirrels introduce themselves to you, and we wanted to set a record while doing it. With that, the third season of Flying Squirrels Insider begins as we bring you your 2014 Flying Squirrels introducing themselves in lightning fast fashion.
Jack Snodgrass, left-handed pitcher for the Richmond Flying Squirrels from Bowling Green, Kentucky, and I'm probably the best twerker in the Eastern League.
Lester Chambrano, I'm a catcher, and I love to play a lot of video games.
Josh Osich, and I'm a left-handed pitcher, and I like hunting and fishing.
Austin Fleet, I'm a pitcher, and I'm a big Oklahoma City Thunder fan.
Phil McCormick, I'm a left-handed reliever, and I'm really bad at shoveling snow.
Ryan Lawless, outfield. I like to dove hunt in off-season.
Adam Vish, I'm the strength and conditioning coach, and I like to lift heavy things.
Alberto Mejia, story preacher. I'm from Dominican. I like to watch the TV.
Ken Joyce, hitting coach, Portland, Maine. I am a maniac.
Brett Krill, outfield. I love the beach.
Jeff Arnold, catcher for the 2014 Flying Squirrels, and I'm also Kyle Crick, my teammate's caddy.
Kyle Crick, pitcher for the Flying Squirrels, and I'm a ping pong champion.
Dave Getzoff, athletic trainer, and I'm from Brooklyn, New York.
Tyler Graham, outfield, and I love the outdoors.
Angel Villalona, play first baseman.
Cody Hall, right-handed pitcher. Fun fact about me is I didn't play high school baseball.
Jared Parker, outfielder, Stafford, Virginia. Parker the Pig is much more famous than I am.
Jose Casilla, right-handed pitcher. I'm from Dominican Republic.
Mario Lizon, Caracas, Venezuela.
and I'm just cool, man.
Ricky Oropesa, first base / third base, and I went to USC, Southern California.
Ross Grimsley, pitching coach. I like Captain Morgan with everything.
Kelly Tomlinson, I play infield, and I once solved the Rubik's Cube.
Kelvin Malte, I'm from Dominican Republic. I'm pitching right-handed pitcher.
Matt Duffy, shortstop, and I write left-handed.
Miles Schroeder from Castro Valley, California. I went to Diablo Valley College.
Aaron Quirarte, right-handed pitcher, Richmond Flying Squirrels, and I like to play the guitar.
Derek Law, right-handed pitcher from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Go Steelers.
Skylar Stromsmo, play everywhere on the field, and I grew up on a cattle ranch in Alberta, Canada.
Ty Block, I'm from Centennial, Colorado. I went to Creighton University, and I'm friends with Doug McDermott.
Clayton Blackburn, right-handed pitcher. I love the outdoors.
Bryce Bandola, I'm relief pitcher for the Flying Squirrels, and I like to hunt and fish a lot.
Russ Mormon, manager of the Flying Squirrels from Blue Springs, Missouri. 2 hits in 1 inning, Major League debut.
You know what's driving me nuts? Major League Baseball announcing on Friday that future PED users will also be suspended from postseason play. After last year, Johnny Peralta and Nelson Cruz got to play in the postseason and could have had a huge impact, as even the Tigers almost went to the World Series. Major League Baseball, once again, reacting to a disaster instead of preventing a disaster. And speaking of disasters, season opener in Australia? Bud, really? Mr. Commissioner, this is what you come up with? You have all these great countries, North America, Canada, Mexico, but Australia, let's spread the gospel of baseball in a cricket stadium. Genius idea. This is what the fans want. This is what the fans want. And I'll tell you what the fans really don't want. The Dodgers. Open up in Australia, open up Sunday Night Baseball, all the money, all the hype, but when it comes time to actually closing the deal, the team that opened the most this year couldn't get it done. As I always say, karma always comes back to get you. And that's what's driving me nuts. Hello, kitty.
Wow, what got into that guy? I kid, of course. Our new correspondent on FSI, Michael Feldstein. You'll be seeing and hearing him throughout this 3rd season of Flying Squirrels Insider. As you just were introduced to the new players that will represent the Flying Squirrels, we also have to introduce you to some new players here for FSI as we welcome in Colonial First Mortgage, and I sit here on the Colonial First Mortgage baseball desk with my good friends Wes McElroy and Jay Burnham. James Limousine you saw also on board this year, transporting us in style, at least some of us in style over here to the Community Ideas Station studios, and glad to be rejoined this year by Buick GMC. We've got a beautiful and luxurious GMC Yukon on set with us today, thanks to your local Richmond GMC dealers. And without further ado, I bring in my cohorts, I think is the best way to describe them, including Jay Burnham, who once again this year will be orchestrating our Text to Win contest. That is the same. All you need to do is text FSI during the show today to 44544. That text promotion brought to you by Opt for Cards again this year. And Jay, I know you're dutifully going to handle that. And speaking of dutifully handling things, the pitching staff, she is a special beast this year, and we're pretty excited about that.
Yeah, we're pretty excited to get those rosters on Saturday, really allowing the team to come into town on Sunday. And looking at the roster, obviously the strength this year is going to be that pitching staff, and we're going to hear from pitching coach Ross Grimsley in just a bit. I think you're fortunate as a minor league team to have maybe 1 or 2 of the top arms in an organization. Here you're going to have 4, a couple of guys that might even be an afterthought on this rotation. One was an all-star in this Eastern League last year, and left-hander Jack Snodgrass. So when you look at this rotation going into the start of the season, 1, I think it's going to be the most exciting rotation in the league, and 2, it might be one of the most exciting rotations in all of minor league baseball.
And for at least 2 years now, we've been waiting for that big arm that the Giants are so famous for having produced, in Matt Cain and Madison Bumgarner. We hear the name Kyle Crick, and he is here, and we're extremely enthused about seeing what he's going to be able to do. But what's interesting is these guys have hit town, guys, is the fact that Ty Block's name continues to surge to the top. He was California League Pitcher of the Year, and from what I'm hearing, his velocity is almost right up there with some of these other guys.
This is a guy that they decided last year that they were going to start at a high A ball. They could have started him at low A ball, but they started him at high A ball. He came in, and he's got an incredible ability to adapt. He adapted when he played his college ball at Creighton. He adapted to high A ball. 12-4 last year in 20 starts, a 2.9 ERA. He didn't overpower guys with the strikes, 117 strikeouts and 20 outings. But here's something you boys will love, calling those long, long innings last year.
Hey, I love that. That gave me an opportunity for more poetry.
Well, he could throw strikes, and that's what you're alluding to.
He can throw strikes, but he doesn't throw balls. 20 starts, 17 walks last year. Only 17. I mean, that is some fantastic numbers. The guy's got an arsenal. He can throw it. Keeps a low ERA, had the lowest ERA in the league. This is a guy who's going to make some quick innings for you guys to broadcast this year.
And we don't want it to appear that we're just blowing smoke, but you can actually tell around the ballpark there's just an additional buzz to the introduction of this year's team. And it was not an indictment on last year's team because really they were right around 500. They were just constructed in a completely different way. But when you talk about baseball prospects, I think the pitchers, for whatever reason, you can see the future more immediately at times than you can with the position players. And speaking of the immediate future, by the way, we're going to have a James Limousine Luxury Player of the Week. But with the hectic travel schedule for the guys coming in and trying to find places to live, we didn't introduce that player to you today. That will be Ty Block. We're actually going to have a James Limousine Luxury Coach of the show. We just roll with it here, and that seems apropos. Ross Grimsley joining us. But I guess my point is, Jay, when you look at these guys and you talk about throwing strikes, and we say that is so undervalued sometimes and lost in radar gun readings.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think when you have a guy like Block, that certainly can set the tone for this lineup and for this rotation 1 through 5. Snodgrass proved that he could throw strikes in this league, and that's gonna help. It can only help the youngster Kyle Crick. And I think every time a guy like Crick takes the mound, look, he's the number 33 overall prospect in minor league baseball. Every time, not only he takes the ball, but all these other guys in this rotation take the ball. The rest of the league's going to take notice. The rest of the industry is going to take notice, and it's going to put a nice emphasis on the city of Richmond as a whole.
Watch how I slip this in right here. Random reminders. Text FSI to 44544 from Opt for Cards. That's new this year. Usually I do it at the beginning. You know when to expect it at the end. We're not doing that this year. We're going to surprise you with the heater. And speaking of that, as we transition to the bullpen, Wes, we don't know a ton about these new guys in terms of their personalities. We got to meet them a couple of days ago at Media Day, and I'll obviously have a chance to mingle with them on the road here on their first road trip. But this much we do know. There's some heat coming out of the bullpen this year.
Yeah, and I know you want to talk about the younger guys and the new faces here, but let's remember, this is a bullpen that you bring back Edwin Chiarte and Phil McCormick, two guys who are reliable, which last year where you're using a lot of that bullpen and you're bringing guys out constantly, those were two reliable arms, not only reliable arms, but they were two all-star arms, and they come back and they can help that transition from the new guys, the new pitching rotation, to the new bullpen, but to have those reliable guys on the back end, that's big.
And I think the exciting thing for those guys is that, as you said, they're sidearmers, they're specialty pitchers. Phil McCormick maybe even more so than Edwin Chiarte because he comes all the way down from the submarine angle, and he needs to be facing left-handed batters. And Jay, he didn't get an opportunity to do that a ton last year. He's going to this year because of guys like Bryce Bandilla and Derek Law and Josh Osich and Cody Hall, and that's the guys that are referenced that are going to bring that velocity coming from the pen.
Well, I think it's important to distinguish the difference between having a prospect-laden team and having a team that's going to win a ton of ball games. And I think what this bullpen will be able to do is it'll be able to elevate the prospect status of these guys to actually make this a team that's going to contend in the Eastern League. And it falls on those arms. And as you mentioned, being able to use these pitchers in the slots and in the spaces in the game where they're going to be used down the road and where they actually have their strengths are leaned on. So Chiarte, McCormick, great in those situational spots. Gas out of the back end of the bullpen. Osich and Hall, we saw what they did last year, perhaps a little bit overextended because of a depleted bullpen. This way, out of the gate at least, this bullpen looks stacked and it looks ready to roll.
And they're thrilled. You know, I had a chance to sit down with Phil McCormick and said this year is going to be the year that you thought last year was going to be. And remember, he was an Eastern League All-Star, but at the same time, he just kind of smiled and said, let's hope so. You know, that's the way it stacks up right now. It's a long season and things happen, but at least at the outset, McCormick is going to be given an opportunity to showcase those strengths. One of the other things I wanted to do today as we transition to the position players and that group of guys that join us here is also give our fans and our viewers an update as to where some of those guys last year, when we talk about the construction of that team, have gone. Joe Panik moving up to Fresno, Adam Duvall moving up to Fresno, and Andrew Susak moving up to Fresno. That was one of the areas of intrigue going into the Cactus League down in Scottsdale for the Giants, whether they were going to push him, because he missed, of course, the last 6 weeks of last year with various injuries, including the hand, but he had a great showing in the Arizona Fall League. From what I understand, he also acclimated himself very nicely in big league camp. What that means is, instead of Susak coming back, the catcher of the future in the eyes of the organization, to work with some of these arms of the future. They're going to bring along a familiar face, a capable face, and a guy that can hit for you, but has also ably handled this pitching staff for the last 2 seasons in levels than Jeff Arnold.
Yeah, and I think it's important to recognize that this team is about pitching, and that pitching is also a factor with the guy behind the plate. And Arnold is a guy that has been with this group of pitchers for now up to 3 years. He knows how to work with these guys, and I think that might be one of the more key pieces of success, not only for their development, but just for the team on the field and in terms of winning as well this year.
If you think about what Susac meant to this team with the struggles and the ups and downs last year, you bring in a guy, Jeff Arnold, who is a familiar face to Crick, to Law, to Blackburn. Here's a guy who there's going to be growing pains. We're talking about the excitement of this pitching staff. There's going to be a transition, but to have a familiar face, as our buddy Parney knows, it's always nice to have that familiar face behind the bar. It's nice to have that familiar face behind the plate.
And too often that face is either Jay or I. Yeah, absolutely. And the only reason that Wes is so high on Jeff Arnold, by the way, is because he sauntered up to him at Media Day and said, hey, I need you on the Wes McElroy program, which, by the way, airs from 3 to 6 every day of the week on Sports Radio 910. And he said, I'd love to, Mr. McElroy. I'd love to. So now he's his favorite player.
You take your cracks. I appreciate
That's
the
what I
plugs.
do. You can see it forming on my face with a smile scraping in while you're talking. You know I've got a good one locked and loaded and I'm about to hit you with it. Yep. Well, let's talk about hitting, because when we projected this roster, we looked at Mac Williamson. He was going to be the poster boy, because you're right, Jay. This team is right now about pitching. But Williamson, the top position playing prospect in the organization, at least in the estimation of Baseball America, was supposed to be here. He's not, due to an elbow injury. He's going to open in San Jose. Talk about the timetable for Williamson, what you're hearing from San Francisco, and also what this outfield group looks like without him.
Yeah, what we're hearing is for Mac Williamson, a month, maybe more, and a lot of times, especially when you have a highly rated prospect, organizations take their time with any ailment that a player might have. So you probably won't expect to see Mac Williamson until the start of May, maybe later, but that's not to say that this team doesn't have some capable outfielders, some familiar faces as well. Ryan Lawless, who hit at the top of the order every day last year, he'll be in the outfield. Returning face, and a guy who has major league experience, Tyler Graham, will be along in the outfield as well. And then a guy that we would like to see to get a little more playing time, that had a nice stretch last year, Brett Krill, who hopefully will get an opportunity. So between those three, you've also got some other guys that can factor in there as well. You should be able to have at least a little bit of offensive push from your outfield positions.
And I got a sneak peek at first-year manager Russ Morman's lineup card. He actually is prepared with it already before the season begins. Jarrett Parker, UVA's own Jarrett Parker, is actually going to be in the 3-hole, and you always look at who's going to fill that 3 spot, and for at least the first month or so, it's going to be Parker who's going to be in that 3 spot, and Graham, who you just alluded to, I think is going to become a lot of the fans' favorite players, because he's fast, he's gritty, he knows how to play the game, he's going to be in center field, and he's going to bat leadoff for this team, at least at the outset of the year. You talk about the outfield, and again, Williamson was who we were projecting to be here. The infield was a little bit more of a hodgepodge, Wes. We figured that Angel Villalona and Ricky Oropesa would both find their way back here, and this offense potentially goes with how they progress. Villalona from his second half, and Oropesa his second crack at the league.
Yeah, I think this is your question mark for this team. You have Oropesa, who was inconsistent last year, who got sent down, who found himself a little bit more as the season went on. We'll have to see how he comes along in year number 2. You also have Angel Villalona, who's got the power, but does he have the consistency? And when I say this is a question mark, you're going to have holes to fill, offense and defense. Joe Panik was a hoover, whether it be at second or at short. He was your hoover, he was your defense. And you have Adam Duvall, who's gone, who missed a chunk of time last year and had to battle his way back. And let's not forget the absence of Mark Minikazi. This is a guy who had the tangibles, whether it was offense or defense, had the intangibles as a clubhouse leader. And here was a guy, I remember a conversation we had at this desk at a point last year where we were wondering how you fit all these bats into a lineup. Now you have a lot more question marks with these guys gone.
And that question now going into this year is how do you get all these arms into the game? But wrapping up that infield, you've got some other names that are intriguing. Mario Lasone, longtime Royals farmhand. He lit up winter ball this year. He's going to get some playing time. And Ricky Oropesa potentially may get some reps over at third base as well as first base. And what I'm understanding, Matt Duffy, who's going to be the Squirrels shortstop, is a guy to keep an eye on. First-year manager Russ Morman loves him as a player coming out of spring training. And speaking of Russ Morman, he takes over at the helm. We'll talk a lot more about him throughout the season. He's a name and a face that people know. He was here back in 2010 as the Flying Squirrels hitting coach, and fun to have him back in the RVA as well. Fun to be with you guys. We've got a ton to do this season. We're going to wrap it up with our friends here, and just glad to be sitting next to you talking baseball again.
No, absolutely, man.
Welcome back to Flying Squirrels Insider. We are here at the Diamond on Media Day 2014, and as you can see, I'm joined by my good friend and fifth-year Flying Squirrels pitching coach, Ross Grimsley. You've got a group of prospects that's almost entirely on the pitching staff. How special of a group is this in your estimation?
You know, the future, I think the near future of the organization is our pitching, and I showed some of the guys the ages of some of the pitchers in the big league club, and they were kind of amazed. And the point I was trying to make is, you know, you're not that far away. We got some very talented young guys. Our main goal, and you know, obviously we have Jerry Cram who's going to come along and help, and that was one of the things that they had told us. They're so important that they want two of us here working with the pitchers. So, and that'll be great. But we're trying to get them not to be able to pitch at AA, but be able to help the big league club. Possibly sooner than they may think.
This group, of course, a lot of times looked at as just that, a group. But let's break them down individually, if you wouldn't mind, and talk about how they are different as pitchers when you look at that core four. And I know the Yankees already used that term, but when you have Ty Blach, Clayton Blackburn, Adalberto Mejia, and Kyle Crick, what are the differences and similarities between those guys?
Blach is a guy that, one of our left-handed pitchers, he's got command of all his pitches. He has an idea how to pitch, which is great. And I think just some of the things with him is we have to make sure that, you know, he's consistent, his delivery stays, you know, intact, and it has. And he's had, you know, he had a great year last year, and in spring training this year, even when he struggled with the command a little bit, he's always bounced back. He makes adjustments pretty quick, which is great. But he has an idea of what to do on the mound. Blackburn, at this particular point in time, you know, he's a very baseball savvy pitcher, has an idea command wise. He's in delivery's a little out of whack, but I think the more he works on it, the better it'll get. It just comes and goes. Mejia's been outstanding. Fastball, breaking ball, changeup. He gets a little hyper in his delivery and gets out of, starts overthrowing, and his command suffers, but when he's smooth and does what he's supposed to do, you know, his breaking ball is outstanding. He locates his fast pitches inside, which is, which you really need guys to do, especially at the big league level, just to keep them off the balls away, which they're going to get most of their outs doing that. Crick, power guy, power arm. He's a young pitcher that, his command is one of the things that we need to work on. His delivery, he gets a little out of whack sometimes, and he'll throw a lot of pitches early when it's out of whack. I mean, he just needs to learn how to make an adjustment like everybody else in their delivery as they go along, so they can limit the damage and and keep us in the game, keep the team in the game. Marte and Snodgrass, two left-handers. Snobby was here last year. Everybody knows how he pitches. He's he changes speeds back and forth, moves the ball in and out. Marte's a guy that is similar. He changes speeds. He's got a little more fastball. His breaking ball needs to improve, especially against left-handed hitters.
Being your traveling companion, compadre, I like to call myself. I don't know if you call me that. I know that you're very excited about our Mohegan Sun casino trip that we have coming up in the first road series of the season. But beyond that, I'm going to force you to look a little bit further beyond that. What are you most excited about with this dynamic pitching staff that you have to lead?
From what we saw in spring training, I mean, it's like I said, they're a very talented group. They seem to be, very eager to learn. It's just being around and seeing the enthusiasm, the ability that they have, and explaining to them how important this year is going to be for them. That is, the jump that they're going to have from San Jose to here might be one of the bigger jumps that you have in professional baseball, even more so from here to the big leagues.
Well, Grims, on behalf of the entire Richmond Police Department, I say welcome back. We've got an eye on you.
Thank you.
The one and only Ross Grimsley certainly couldn't find much better leader for this young stable of arms that the Squirrels are going to start throwing out there starting in just a couple of days. Glad you could be with us here for Flying Squirrels Insider. Normally we'll have our James Limousine Luxury Player of the Week join us on FSI Field, but today it was Ross Grimsley, our James Limousine Luxury Coach of the Day. We're doing things a little bit different and a little bit more exciting because this is the premiere of Flying Squirrels Insider. Glad you found us. More FSI right after this. My thanks to Ross Grimsley, who seems quite a bit more energized this year, and with good reason. Great thoughts on the 2014 pitching staff. Unfortunately, that is already all the time we have for the season premiere of Flying Squirrels Insider. It always goes by quickly, and the season will start doing that as well. You mark my words on that. But before it does, we're going to get out here on FSI Field. We didn't even get to use that today. We had such a jam-packed show, and I know the guys are a little bit disappointed with that. We'll have tutorials, interviews with our James Limousine Luxury Player of the Week, and so much more as we hope to continue being your inside source for Flying Squirrels baseball. For my co-hosts and good friends, Jay Burnham, Wes McElroy, our entire FSI crew, thanks for joining us. It is now officially baseball season, and the third season of FSI is underway.
Production funding for Flying Squirrels Insider is made possible in part by the all-new 2015 GMC Yukon, offering professional-grade design and functionality. The all-new 2015 GMC Yukon, now available at Richmond area GMC dealers. Dan Doherty at Colonial First Mortgage, assisting customers with home purchasing and mortgage refinancing. Online at colonial1mtg.com. and by phone at 804-218-4444. And James Limousine, driven to serve Richmond for 22 years. JamesLimousine.com, 804-237-1540.